see that it actually works. Quarantine, from a personal point of view, is a very strange experience. As an embassy, we closed down much before authorities in Bosnia and Herzegovina asked to stop most activities. The reason is that our ministry from Italy has, since Italy has been the hardest hit country in the EU, at least at the beginning, they realized that the risks that exist, and so they recommended all personnel around the world to stay home as much as possible, work from home. So we managed to do that. And I must tell you, especially at the beginning, it has been extremely hard. Why? Because in the first few days, the level of work has gone down. But then suddenly, everybody discovered these systems like Zoom, Skype, WebEx, and so on to talk, to exchange information. And this has created an enormous amount of contacts on a number of platforms. WhatsApp, Viber, Skype, WebEx, Zoom, email, SMS, phone calls, really crazy. So in the first few days, there has been a kind of digital overload, so to say. But now things are a bit more under control. We organize video conferences with the embassy's colleagues, and it works fine. For my personal life, it's a bit strange to stay home, but I think this is also a special occasion to think in a more profound way about life, about what is important to us, to be in touch with friends, with family. I almost never used to talk with my parents every day. Now I do that. They are home in Rome. They cannot go out. They go out very little. So it's strange. I hope that we can use this time to learn how to live better, also when the crisis is over.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I think the situation is teaching all of us a lot about each other. And the most important is how precious is each moment in our life that we actually have. Regarding the situation of a lot of video calls, online events and meetings, would you say it is something good that happened to all of us, or maybe there are some disadvantages?
There are some advantages. The advantages are that you can establish direct contacts with people that normally it would be harder to get in touch with. So never as in this time, I've been having all the personal phone numbers of so many people, so many politicians around the country. And that is good. But at the same time, you can really tell that the fact that even if, as you talk, the lack of personal presence is a problem. I mean, you achieve less. And also, some meetings organized in this way are less effective than in ordinary times because you tend to distract yourself more. You can hide your mobile. Don't worry, this is behind my laptop. And check email or play card games on the other side of the screen and so on. So it's harder to keep the attention. So it's important to develop also new ways to interact with people online in a situation like this. I read an interesting article saying that the attention span of people in these situations is maximum 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, you have to create something new, something different. Otherwise, people will forget you or will just get distracted. So let's see whether we manage today.
Yeah, it would be a challenge. I think we are already actually something around 20 minutes. from the early beginning of event that some of the participants started to jumping in. But okay, let's move on a bit from this kind of negative topic and to maybe go with some other kind of questions. So can you please share with us how is the feeling and how is the experience of being a foreign ambassador in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
I personally feel very lucky. This is my first time as an ambassador in any country, and I like really this experience. But most of all, I like people. I really feel there is a lot of warm, sincere hospitality, and also I think that. Be it right or wrong, there is an expectation from foreign ambassadors here that they should contribute to internal political and social life. For me, it's always surprising that I see that people ask for opinions to me or to foreign ambassadors on things that normally in any other country would not be the object of discussions by foreign representatives. But I think this is a huge opportunity, it's a huge honor, and it's important to try to be responsible in this. And also, I think that Italy has very strong ties with Bosnia and Herzegovina, even in a way that you would not expect. For example, 2 years ago, I found out by accident that the first consulate of Italy in Bosnia and Herzegovina was opened in 1863. So 157 years ago this year. And there are lots of documents, lots of stories. We found old texts, old diplomatic reports about Bosnia and Herzegovina 150 years ago. They're extremely interesting. And even in those reports, you can read that there used to be Italians around Bosnia and Herzegovina already at that time. So our countries are close, they can be closer, and every day I learn something new, and this is extremely stimulating. So for me, it's enriching. I hope that I can try not to be a bureaucrat, but to, in my little things, to really contribute to the life in the country. At least I'm trying.
Yeah, actually, as if you allow me, as I can notice that you have, for the difference of the maybe some other politicians, especially on these in this country, but for the some other ambassadors, foreign ambassadors in Bosnia, you have that kind of people-to-people link. For example, I can share with the rest of the group and the chat here that while we were actually in touch via emails, I'm still with some other embassies in touch over the some administrative officers or some other officers, you know, like reaching the ambassadors over them. And actually, I think you are the only one that actually answered directly. So I really appreciate that kind of relation that you are trying to establish with our community here. As some of people would say, being an ambassador in some other country and representing your country and your culture somewhere else is the greatest honor of all. Even, for example, when a few times when I was with some of my friends on international events, as you were actually mentioning the relations between Italy and Bosnia and the cultures and the countries, when I asked one of my friends, we were actually speaking on our language, and I asked, okay, so you are now listening to us, and can you describe me how does it sound to you? On which language does it remind you? And he said, well, if I'm listening to you better, it's something between Italian and Russian. And he said, like, I don't know why. And I was like, come on, Italian and Russian, like that doesn't make any sense. And on that evening, I was actually watching the news on a TV and trying to, you know, to imagine our language as somebody else. And you can actually see that, I don't know how to describe it, but warm in language that is unique for the Mediterranean people. So yes, I can agree with everything that you said, that the boundaries and connections, the connections actually are really special between Italy and Bosnia. So my next question would be something also related to this that we were talking about, and regarding your expectations, because as you said, this is your first time to serve as ambassador. Regarding your expectations, can you remember what were your expectations before you actually came in Sarajevo, and are those expectations addressed right now?
Yes, I'll try to answer that also by reconnecting to what you were mentioning about the similarities and differences in the language, for example. Well, maybe this will be funny for you, but I want to say it because it's true. For some reason, I've always been attracted by the similarities between Italy and other Mediterranean countries. Say Algeria, Egypt, Lebanon, Turkey. But I am not, in the past, as a student, I had not established a lot of understanding of Slavic languages or Slavic countries. And the Balkans to me was always a very unknown area. Not because there was something I didn't like, but because I felt something like I could not understand. The language sounded very strange and complicated to me. So this in a way has given me an advantage because I've come here without any previous knowledge. So every day I'm learning something new. I'm adding something. Now, the funny thing is that I understand more and more every day that really also from a linguistic point of view, there is this strange parallel approach of Latin languages and Slavic, or at least your language. It's incredible how the roots seem the same. I have been trying to ask questions to linguists, to experts, to understand how it is that it works like that. They were not able to answer me. Their answer was that the father of both Latin and Slavic languages is the same, is Sanskrit from ancient India. But there are incredible similarities. Let me give you an example. And I see that we also have other Italian friends. Anas is online, but I also see Nicola Mossone. I guess he's in Italy. So I don't know whether Nicola speaks some of the languages from the region, but just to give you an example, in Italian, we have the same word for time and for weather, like here, vrieme. Or for example, the word you use to say interpretation is tłumaczenie, and the interpreter is too much. In Italian, it's the same. Tłumaczenie is interpretazione, and too much is interprete. So you see that although the two words are completely different, interpretation, tłumaczenie, the way they develop into the language are exactly parallel. And this is so weird to me because somehow I'm trying to learn your language. Somehow it looks like they are, that Bosnian, Serb, Croat are Italian spoken with a Slavic accent, which is really weird. By the way, I also see online Philip. We have met 2 years ago, and he speaks wonderful Italian, by the way, so he can testify to this much better than I can. and as well as Tamara, sorry. So I believe there are many similarities also in the culture. I once talked with this comedian who has become a politician, Damir Imamovic. He's now with SPD, I think. But I talked to him before he became a politician, and we were joking once about the mentality, the identity, and he said, normally there is this debate in Bosnia and Herzegovina whether Bosnia and Herzegovina belongs to the East or to the West. And he said, it's not a matter of East and West, it's a matter of North and South. Are we Mediterranean or are we Austrians? Are we Northern Europeans or at least Central Europeans? And I can see that in a way. So for me, it's extremely interesting, very funny at the same time to see this. But I also think that we should not be cheated by our similarities. I think something where there are differences, for example, is the concept of inat, that for me was completely new. So for our Italian friends, tell me whether I explained this right. Inat means, in Italian it would be dispetto, but dispetto is not just in the sense that it's something that you do to displease somebody else. Is that even when you have no choice, rather than admitting that the other person has won, you will not concede defeat and will be in a way disrespectful. I think this is something very strong. I think there is also, as much as there is hospitality here towards foreigners, there is understandably also sometimes the suspicion that foreigners have a hidden agenda. I can tell that. And I understand the reasons for that. I'm not saying it's wrong or it's right. I'm just saying I see that. So it's also very important to be sincere, especially as a diplomat, to openly say what you want. And to try to be honest. Otherwise, this will never allow to have proper relations. You can have very kind relations, but if you want to have true relations, you really need to be sincere. And that takes the relation to another level.
Yes, that's correct. Regarding that, what you said, I would maybe point out with the thing that ex-British ambassador Mr. Ferguson said after he was leaving the service from Bosnia and Herzegovina. He said after his service as ambassador in Bosnia and Herzegovina, he doesn't need to be ambassador anywhere else on the planet because he thinks that he saw everything that you can see in some country on a planet on such a small area. Okay, so not to taking too much time here, I would just ask with my last question here, and then I will open the floor for the other participants to maybe jump into this discussion and to ask somebody. So the question here for you from my side as somebody that is engaged with young people is how do you actually see the role of a young people, of youth in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and how would you describe young people of this country?
I've been always impressed by the energy of you young people here in this country, and I think it comes from the fact that first of all you are young, and that's already important, and the other thing is that you are from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and that's the generation of your parents has been facing lots of challenges. So the way you were born and raised means that you have built-in systems to understand that you need to commit and be strong to succeed in life. So in this sense, I think there is much more determination than among your colleagues in other countries. You are coming from a history that pushes you forward. So I see enormous potential there. And I personally, as a person, believe in the importance of youth. You were mentioning your participation in youth associations and conferences. I have been doing that when I was younger. I made wonderful friendships. By the way, also with people from Bosnia and Herzegovina during such conferences, something like 20 years ago, even more. And in those situations, every time I felt the importance of getting together. So I think youth can change a lot. And I think in this country, youth is really key, because there is nothing that unites people more than sharing youth, than sharing dreams and problems and hopes. I really believe that just the mere fact that you decide to get together, to talk, to know each other in spite of distance, in spite of quarantine, is really very powerful. And I do hope that we can see more of that. In this way, people, first of all, can enjoy better, can meet new friends, but also they can change the future for the better. They can change prejudices from the past and can build a better present and therefore also a better tomorrow. So the more I see people coming together from different parts of the country just for the happiness of sharing time, the better. In fact, this is something we are trying to do also with all of our cultural activities in the embassy. We make this constant effort to organize things that take place everywhere at the same time. They might be comic strip festivals, they might be Italian Film Week, Italian Cuisine Week. We try to be everywhere and to send people everywhere. It's a small experiment. We cannot change anything. We should not change anything. We can contribute to dialogue, but it should not be foreigners leading the dialogue. And but I see that people are very happy about that. And you are the adults of tomorrow. You are the leaders of tomorrow. And I do believe in that. And even the leaders of today, they cannot remain leaders if they do not enjoy your trust. So be yourselves, follow your dreams, your present, and don't be afraid to continue and enlarge all of these activities. So I believe in you.
Thank you so much for these words. I think all of the participants could have feel it on the right way. So I would say maybe it's now enough of Miloš for the beginning, and I will leave the floor to the others. I could have maybe see on the Zoom group chat that some of participants are short with the time. So whoever wants to ask the question or to maybe have some comment or something, you can raise your hands on. Okay.
Just quickly, may I ask that I'm very curious to see all your faces, but not knowing you. So please say a couple of words about where are you from in Bosnia and Herzegovina and what you're doing. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I saw the hand, so maybe we can start with Fatima.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fatima, and I'm coming from Bosnia, from Sanski Most. Currently, I'm an exchange student in France. So I have a few questions for His Excellency, but before I start, may I ask, firstly, I invited my friend Nicola. He's from Italy, and I invited him for this meeting. So he has to go really soon, so I just wanted to ask Nicola if he could tell us something about the situation he's from Trento. I'm not sure if I pronounced this right. If he could tell us something about the situation in Trento, in Italy in general.
Yeah, hello to everyone. Do you hear me? I think yes. Okay.
Yes, perfect.
The audio is on. Okay, fine. I met Fatima in Lille because we are both exchange students. However, I'm in Italy now, and I study in the University of Trento, but now I live for the quarantine with my father. So in Casale Monferrato, which is in Piemonte. Unfortunately, one of the most affected regions of Italy. It's a very tough situation, but everyone is trying to do what he can to do. Like personally, I volunteer in the Red Cross in order to help my community in a way, in the way that I can do. So yeah, it's a very difficult situation also for all the students and university students. Personally, it's very difficult. However, we have been very organized during these last weeks. With online meetings, like the ambassador said before, and also before these, also these guidelines were given to us by the institution, the authorities. We as students already organized ourselves to study all together. I have my sister who studied with her friends all the morning. I don't think also the afternoon because it's quite difficult. Yeah, but yeah.
Nicola,
Mhm.
may I ask you how the Italians cope with the lockdown? Since we all know that they love to socialize, they love to hang out with each other. They're like really close as a people.
Yeah, normally we are probably commonly known as the people of the aperitivo. So at the beginning it was very difficult to change our way of life in just one day. Because we started with few cases and then it spread out very quickly. Fortunately, thanks also to the authorities, but also to the responsibility of the Italian people, we faced this situation in the best way, I think. And now for the Easter vacation, very few people were out and try to, go somewhere else and not to stay at home. So it's very good news. Also, because all in this way and to quarantine ourselves, isolate ourselves, we can face this threat.
Also, since in the beginning we heard from the ambassador about the efforts that embassy is doing in a situation like this. I know that since you are actually an exchange student, and since the pandemic started, you had to return to Italy. How was the reaction of an Italian embassy in France regarding to your needs?
So I decided to came back the 14th of March, and the 15th of March I was in Italy, and it was 1 week after the decree from the Prime Minister of Italy to lock down Italy. So it was a very confusional moment, and at the beginning I tried to contact my embassy in France, in Paris. And it was really difficult because I contacted them via mail, and I had different information from different bodies. One type of information from the embassy, another one, for example, from our doctors, basic doctors here, or from the other authorities in Italy. But because I think it was a confusional moment, and all of them are trying to do their best efforts to coordinate themselves. Yeah, so probably a better coordination would have been better.
Yeah. What, in your opinion, would be the most important thing that you expect from an embassy to provide for you in a situation like that?
I think it's correct information, also support for whatever you do in a situation like this, because I was not a resident in France, so it was a probably more difficult situation because I was temporary living in France, so I didn't have strict rights to stay there, and I didn't know which rules to follow, the French one, the Italian one. So I took a train and I decided to come back, but it was also really dangerous to take a train if you think. I spent the whole day on a train with lots of people, so I could get infected or I could spread out the epidemics more. So more coordination, I think.
If I may ask, within this answer here, maybe for our guest speaker here, Mr. Ambassador, what is the situation here in Bosnia regarding maybe some students or other citizens of Italy? Are there any, or on which way are they affected with this situation?
Well, first of all, you know that there is an Italian community in Bosnia and Herzegovina, around 1,000 people permanently resident here since centuries. They are not affected as Italians, but we had many students actually around the country. We also had Erasmus students. Now, of course, the difference with France is that the numbers are much smaller. So we could help them to get back, to organize buses, to spread information. It was certainly easier than in France. Now, there is also a certain number of Italians working with international organizations, with the EU, with the UN, OSCE, and they are always here. Some of them have left in accordance with their organization's measures, but there is still a small expatriate community, and we share exactly the same conditions and destiny, so to say, of the rest of the population from Bosnia and Herzegovina. So we try to stay safe and also to help out the people we work with to stay safe. So the ideal is to avoid getting infected, but also to avoid infecting other people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would maybe open the floor for some other people to ask a question, or at least, as you said before, this question, to maybe few sentences from each of the participants, so you can actually see the faces from this group. Anybody with a question?
May I ask a question? Like,
yep.
I'd like to ask to the ambassador if you think that in the future there will be a reorganization of the priorities or the efforts that an embassy or a consulate should face in this situation in a better way.
Yes, I mean, already now the recommendation is to really try to inform nationals as much as possible, to get in touch with them. But this also requires the need of systems so that people can get in touch with you easily. For example, you said that being only on a temporary basis in France, you had not contacted the embassy in advance, and this is normal. So in times of an emergency, everybody needs to have a simple way to get in touch with the institutions. And this is possible only when you have a certain type of website that allows you to insert your data in an easy way, so that you can also be contacted in an easy way. And sometimes sending an email is not the ideal way, because you get, as an embassy, you might get maybe 2,000 emails per day. in time of crisis, especially in a big country like France or Germany and so on. So there are some systems that have been established, some websites where you can insert your data and then you can be called back. But something that this experience is showing is that there is also a lot of work that you can do from home. And teams can be organized in a different way. So I think this crisis will teach us something. The other interesting point is not only how do you change your emergency procedures, but also how you change your normal procedures. For example, as an embassy, we had to cancel a lot of events. We had a lot of important events scheduled. We had to cancel them. But this is also opening new opportunities to start new activities. So, for example, something that we started 3 weeks ago, it's a new radio program, which is called Radio Italia. And this is 30 minutes on the radio. We started with Radio Sarajevo, but now we also have Radio Chameleon from Tuzla, Radio Gradska Mreža from Mostar. And by the way, we are looking for some radio in Banja Luka. If you have any contact, please let us know. The program is free. We give it for free. And we also have guests on the show. So 2 weeks ago, we had Edin Dzeko, who's playing in Roma with the Roma team. Last week, we had Eros Ramazzotti, who recorded a message for everybody in Bosnia and Herzegovina. This was a huge success. Tomorrow, we'll have another show about the city of Trieste with other guests and so on. So this is creating new bridges. I mean, we were not expecting that. We also started to have online Italian conversation in a group like this with Zoom. It's every Thursday. We call it Caffè Italiano at 6 p.m. By the way, you're all invited if you wish. Wherever you are, if you speak Italian, you're most welcome. And it is free, of course. And you meet other people from the rest of Bosnia and Herzegovina, from Italy. And the hope is that one day we can get together also in person. So it's strange how this situation is changing the way an embassy works. But there are also great opportunities.
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. I think the CEREBRA team is having weekly meetings, and the one is going to happen today at 6:30. So I think we are about to discuss about this proposal of looking for some partner of a radio station in Banja Luka for sure. And I think, yeah.
Milos, we tried to contact Radio Big because we had some cooperation with them, but they have some problems because all the radios now have problems with budget. And unfortunately, we are already paying to produce the program, so we cannot pay for the retransmission, but it would be great. And the nice thing is that step by step, we are linking different radio stations around the country under the sign of Italy. And it is nice that everybody in different parts of the country is listening to Italian music, but also listening to the same things that people listen to elsewhere in the country. So it is a nice project. Think about it.
Yeah, for sure, we will.
Thank you.
I saw a hand, I think, with Milos before this question and answer.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I have some contacts from Big Radio, and I will ask him. I will ask them and try to connect you with them. Okay, my question would be, okay, you said that you are fresh in this job, like you are in this water of the ambassador, and your first country is Bosnia. Okay, later after your mandate in Bosnia and Herzegovina finished, and in case if you will have a chance to choose another country where you're going to be ambassador, is it going to be on Balkan or another country in Europe or in the world?
I love to come back to the Balkans. And as I said, I'm trying to learn the language, so it is a kind of investment in the future. However, I know that the way our profession works, is such that it is very unlikely that I will be back in this area. I will probably go somewhere else. I don't know where. And this is the good thing and the bad thing about this job, that you learn a lot about a certain people, a certain area, and then you have to move on to something completely different. Other countries have different systems. In the US, for example, if you want, you can specialize. You can come back more or less to the same area. It's not the case with Italy, but I'll come back for holiday for sure. I need Cevapcici to survive now. And Ivar was a great discovery.
I think the other Milos completely understands you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, maybe because we are a bit short with the time, maybe we can go for a final round with the persons that haven't had chance to say anything. Maybe we can go with Maja, Milena from CEREBRA, and then Katarina. I can see Armin, Mario, Philip, and the rest of the crew that is here with us and didn't have chance to actually say anything. So please, guys. Milena, maybe.
Or maybe I,
Maja.
Excellent, ambassador. What I think about the similarities between the Italian youth, Bosnian, and the difference.
I think it was about the similarities and the differences between young people from Italy and Bosnia, if I'm correct. Okay.
Yes.
The funny thing is that I could answer for people from Bosnia and Herzegovina, but not so much from Italy, because I'm not in touch with them so much in this time. But I think that the good thing about young people is that they tend to be much more similar rather than older people. But I think the main similarity is that also in Italy, young people are very much aware of the need to be very active, be very proactive in order to succeed in life, because times have become more challenging. I mean, it's not so easy to find a job anymore. You have to create your own job. You have to be a bit aggressive in the good sense. To build your future. And I think that young people from Bosnia and Herzegovina are also very much aware of the need to invest in yourself a lot, to grow, to learn. My hope, both for you and for the other young people in Italy, is that there is also an awareness about the need to build personal growth. But I see that the signs are very encouraging. I think your generation is better than the generation, say, from 10 years ago. That there is a better balance between work and personal life. So I'm optimistic about, so to say, the new wave. And also, for your information, there are many young Italian people who are coming to Bosnia and Herzegovina regularly. And there is an increasing number of schools who come here to visit. And something that we are trying in our embassy is to establish better links between these schools that come on visit and local schools. So we would like to create twinnings and also to exchange visits. We were about to do that this spring, but because of the coronavirus, we had to cancel around 6 visits. But we will start as soon as this is over. So in case you are interested in getting directly in touch with young people from Italy, we'll be very, very happy to facilitate that.
Just, Milos, just to add on Ambassador's answer, I think because I worked with the youth in Italy last 10 months, all around. I visited, I think, more than 10 regions in Ity. And I think that the problems are same for Italians and from Bosnian and Herzegovinians, because it's a very big number of Italians are facing the same problem of unemployment, for example. But in another hand, Italians, they have, I think, the strongest network of the Scouts. And they are, with their networks, they are doing amazing things all around Italy. And numerous, because they have 2 different groups of Scouts, religious one and another group of Scouts all around. They are visiting Bosnia so many times per year. It's very strong desire and wish to be closer to Bosnia and Herzegovina, because in my opinion and from my experience, a lot of Italians are more connected to African countries because of history, because of colonialism, different approaches, etc., etc. But also they have a big heart as us. So that's the most beautiful thing that I discovered in Italian youth.
Grazie, Tamara. Also, Philip knows a lot about contacts with Italian schools, I think, right?
Yes, I know that there were supposed to be like 6 or 7 groups together with Caritas Italiana in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but they had to cancel because of this situation. We hope it will end soon and we can work.
So do I.
Yeah, we all do. Okay, I think I saw Mario's hand as well. Okay.
One question. What does Excellence think about education system here in Bosnia?
Okay, educational system, and Mario, you can say the question as well.
Okay. Hello everyone. I'm Mario. I'm part of small NGO called Green Team. We are dedicated to youth work and of course environment protection. I have one question, Your Excellency. Can you compare environmental protection in Italy and here in Bosnia and Herzegovina? Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So maybe we can go with the answers somehow on both of these questions. Yeah.
Sure. As far as education is concerned, I think that the system I've seen in Bosnia and Herzegovina at the both high school and university level is in some way more similar to the Anglo-Saxon British system. And I think this is something good, actually. I mean, it really opens up the mind a lot. And it gives you the opportunity also to have lots of exchanges with foreign universities. At the same time, I also see that, and I also hear that in some sectors, or at least in some schools, there is not so much attention for critical thinking. But I must admit that all the teachers I've met, and also, let's say, more teachers than professors, show me that they really take at heart the development of their own students. And this is something absolutely important because it's something that stays with you for the rest of your life. So I believe that the education system here is very good. And the evidence that is good is also the huge emigration of young people from the country. If young people can live with their good education, it means that their education is comparatively better than in other countries. So the key is to use this good preparation, this good study, this good knowledge to invest back in the country. I think that this is really a strategic area. And for your information, we are trying very hard to start some cooperation, especially with elementary schools and high schools, to introduce the Italian language as a tuition language, so we can also facilitate university and school exchanges. As far as the environmental protection is concerned, is very complex. In Italy, there are many groups working on that at local and national level, but they are, in a way, now at this moment, they are facilitated by the fact that there are very clear EU regulations that make it compulsory for authorities to follow environmental regulations anytime there are some. So if you want, you need the environmental assessment. Whatever you do must include an environmental side. And also you have a lot of instruments at the EU level to use in case your authorities do not respect these regulations. The main difference I see with Bosnia and Herzegovina is that authorities do not feel as how can I say, as responsible towards the environment as in the EU. But I also think that after all, the relation with the environment, with nature in Bosnia and Herzegovina is very special. Why? Because everybody, I see it also on Instagram these days, or quarantine. There are people who really show their love for nature and the fact that they are grateful that they can step out to the city and be in the woods and enjoy fresh air. So there is this deep love for nature that is part of culture. At the same time, nature is not perceived as something that you really need to understand and promote. It's like something that is given to you. But every spring, I'm always so sad when I travel in Bosnia and Herzegovina along the rivers and I see so many plastic bags hanging on the trees next to the rivers. Because the water flowing down in spring takes them away. So there are many people respecting nature, many people not respecting nature. And I think it's important to do more for that. But I also think it's important to teach young people to enjoy nature in a better way. And this can also be a source of income. It is a project to promote hiking trails across the country. And the surprising thing for me is that many people living here are not aware of the highlights along these trails. I don't see schools organizing excursions to go trekking, for example. I think it's important to the country, and they are responsible for the protection of the country. So I think something can be done here. And in Italy, we have had some positive examples at the local level, and we are also trying to create partnership to share that experience.
Yeah, also in the sense that we had an opportunity to see how fast it actually takes to the nature to recover. Just like with our cars being away from street, or with the traffic that is on a lower frequency than usual. Okay, I saw Katarina Vučković having a hand for a question, and I think slowly we can after that conclude with this session, as we are already over the way behind the agenda. So appreciating all of our time. Katarina, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Miloš. Thank you, CEREBRA, for organizing this, and thank you, Your Excellency, for being with us. If I have to introduce myself, then I would just say that I'm happy to see five people in this group that I had a chance to mentor somehow. So like when I see you doing things differently or using the opportunity of the circumstances and actually working, it means that my work also makes sense. Your Excellency, I'm originally from Brčko, but living in Sarajevo for the last 5 years. Very keen into recognition of youth work and working with the Institute for Youth Development called currently. So at this coffee, at this chat, I'm very privately and personally here as I would say as a youth worker and a trainer of young people in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So I have a question and one proposal maybe for all of you, but first of all, maybe for the embassy. with the circumstances in our country or world, we started discussing what's going on with young people and children who don't have this access to Zoom or to any other devices and to follow the regular schools. And you talked about a lot about education. So if you want to support us, not only embassy as such, but even maybe privately, if you want to support what we are doing now in, I think in 7 different areas in the country, we are introducing and motivating people to donate computer and IT equipment that they don't use to schools and students who are socially and economically not able to have that. And it's called Daru is online Nastava. I can link the link to chat our call. So I just asked colleagues what's going on in the field. And we realized that in Mario's area and in Fatima's area is the worst. People are not donating, and there's the largest number of high school and elementary students and even faculty students without any education. Approximately, we're talking about around 10,000 students in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Just a few days ago, we had a chance to get to certain donors, and we bought 100 laptops in Tuzla Canton and in Zenica Canton. So we hope that we can support, and this is also for you to maybe be a focal point in Banja Luka area, because we don't have a focal point in Banja Luka yet. So if you want to discuss that on your weekly team meeting, feel free to do that as well. So maybe this is one of the things that I'm very concerned is that personally also how young people are actually following the situation, not only being in a fear of what happens in their families or if they are healthy and so on, but it's also like our high school students are wondering how they will finish up the school. And then there's a certain number of high school students and elementary school students who actually don't have a cell phone or a monitor where they can follow all the tasks being given to school. So it's not, I know we are all in NGOs struggling, but our teachers and our fellow young people are also quite struggling daily. So my additional concern to this is also what happens with domestic violence and the children and young people who are facing, who actually were escaping from the 2 schools from their maybe a violent atmosphere, home 7 there. So, but that's another, maybe that's another topic. My question to the Excellency is, how do you, what would you prioritize to Bosnia and Herzegovina for upcoming 5 years? Like a short-term goal. If you were a Bosnian Herzegovinian politician with a position to make good decisions, what would you recommend to your fellow politicians to do in next 5 years?
Thank you. Difficult question.
I know.
and dangerous one, because especially here, foreigners are always ready to give advice.
Yeah, but imagine you are one of the presidency members.
Okay, but then if you think as a politician, you would maximize your time in office, which is not necessarily what people need. I think the key is to harmonize the natural incentive, natural interest of politicians to stay in power with the need to also let people be empowered. And these 2 things must go together. So I think that especially at this time, during this crisis, we see that the crisis mood is strangely full of opportunities. And just think of that. I mean, 1 month ago, people were talking about blockading government. Now, just to be clear, I'm not pinpointing somebody in particular. I'm saying that all politicians always try to strike their own points. But now there is a need to cooperate. So it's important to see that cooperation actually pays off and is necessary to help the country. So that's the first thing. This crisis mode also opens the door maybe to some reforms that are necessary. In my view, the most urgent reforms are the reforms to get into the European Union. And these are reforms that touch everything, touch the social sector, environmental sector, economic, everything more, and everything else, sorry. And I believe that those are the reforms that are really urgent and necessary, and that will also give more opportunities to young people to believe more in their own country and to have a future in the country. So last year in May, the European Commission has issued this report on the reforms that are recommended for Bosnia and Herzegovina. I will start from that list for the next 5 years. And I am absolutely certain that reforms are possible, that politicians can get together. I also believe that it is up to the international community, and especially the EU, to create incentives for that. But nobody will ever be able to order politicians what to do. We can only create incentives, and we can also see how the public reacts to this, what you, young people, say, what you propose, what you do. So my recommendation would be that one. Let's grow together. We need Bosnia and Herzegovina to be in the EU, to play a part, also to let everybody enjoy the changes and the wealth that the EU can bring. But this requires cooperation, and we must find the right way to cooperate, both inside the country and with the EU. So my plan would be to work on EU reforms.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, as we are over an hour and something behind the planned and scheduled agenda for this coffee and meeting, I would maybe propose to stop here and maybe to see if there is some chance, or at least to hope that this situation will end soon, and then that we will have a chance to meet in person and maybe to discuss more on some issues and topic, and to develop our joint initiatives. Maybe some final word, Your Excellency, if you have to point out something that you would love to on the end of this meeting.
Well, I would really like to sincerely thank you for the initiative. I'm very happy. I must admit, I am very positively surprised by your activity, and I hope to hear more from you and to work together. And absolutely, let's stay in touch. I would share our social network contact. It's at Italy in BiH. It's the same for Instagram, for Facebook, for Twitter. In this period of quarantine, we are trying to offer as many interesting things as possible on social media, because we cannot do it in real life. So feel free to follow, to interact, to send ideas. And I really hope to get to know you better. And I'm encouraged to see some faces that I met from the past. I think I also met Armin. Is that right? Yeah, we have met at the conference last November, right?
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I see that this is what you call mafia, in the good sense, that you're all connected already. And I think when good people get together, it's always an encouraging sign. So I hope to hear more from your initiatives, and really feel free to give ideas. If you think we can help you connect with other people in Italy or in the rest of the country, I would be extremely happy to do that. So I mean it. So I'm looking forward to your proposals.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think we managed to deal with this information of attention of 20 minutes. We are more longer than 20 minutes of this meeting. So yes, again, as we started with Anas saying that he would be thrilled to visit Bosnia. I'm encouraging him to write to us and to follow all of our official channels of communication if he needs, and if other people need some kind of help or support. The CEREBRA team is more than happy to help to every young people here. Once again, on the end of this event, I would thank to all of you that participated here, especially to you, Your Excellency, for your effort and your time. We really do appreciate it. And once again, I would ask you to say all of the greetings and all of the best for these holidays that passed last week to the embassy team. Stay negative, as we like to say nowadays, and stay home and stay safe. And thanks again. Really looking forward to everything that is about to come and for our further and future cooperation. Thank you all.
And I think that
if anybody wants to join the Caffè Italiano, you're welcome. And also, tomorrow at 6 p.m. we are going to have an online presentation of a project on Roman antiquities in Sarajevo.
Please, I would also use this opportunity to invite you for all of those informations to feel free to share with us, and we will be happy to publish it on mladi.com. And also one idea that just come up to my mind is that we can maybe join to Caffè Italiano on Thursday, and maybe we can write an article for Mladi.
Sure.
So we can promote more and we can do more together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Forza Italia. So I think that
Forza
in
Italia,
this critical moment, we are sending positive vibes for Italy also.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.